If you want to be more efficient and effective while experiencing more inner peace, then working in the core of your issues instead of putting on a Band-Aid is vital. Welcome to LifePix University podcast. I'm your host, Esty Rapport, and here to help you improve your 28 cognitive functions, the 28 things that make up thinking. In each episode, we'll discuss a real-life challenge, why you might be struggling with it, and give you practical strategies so all areas of your life will improve. What's the first step to improving any area of your life? Where do you begin? How do you start? And how do you know you're headed in the right direction? All that is coming up next on the LifePix University podcast, episode 377. But first, want a super easy to understand, super easy to implement resource on cognitive functions? I got you. Grab a copy of your essential guide to cognitive functions at www.lifepixuniversity.com/guide. It's going to be a 30-day program where we go through each one of the cognitive functions and give you practical tips so you understand and begin improving that cognitive function right away. That's LifePix, P-I-X, university.com/guide. For today's real life challenge, imagine it's coming up on the new year and you have decided this is going to be the year you take control of your life. It's going to be the year you work not just on external things, but also on internal things. But you're not exactly sure what to work on first. To make any sort of change, you've got to have awareness. Without awareness, you don't realize that something needs to be changed or something can be better. So you just continue going on your regular life. But have you ever met a really angry person? Someone who, by talking to them, you know they have a lot of bottled up pain or trauma. You know this person needs help, but they may not know it. True, that's an extreme example, but we all have this in different areas of our lives. The only reason we make a change is because an outside force, a stimulus, shows us there's another way. We think about this outside force, this stimulus, using our thinking skills, our cognitive functions, and self-awareness, and then we develop motivation to change it. Right? Think about last time you went on a diet. The outside world told you need to lose weight. It could have been a person like a doctor or your spouse. It could have been a friend. It could have been social media posts that were showing you all different pictures of bodies that were a lot thinner than you. And you're like, hey, that doesn't look like mine. It could be an ad. It could be anything on the outside that is telling you need to lose weight. Then you, using your thinking skills, you're like, hey, this is related to me. You're developing an awareness and realizing something needs to change. And then either through emotional or logical reasoning, you went on a diet. So either you were in too much pain, people were making so much fun of you, so you went on a diet, or you're like, oh my goodness, this diet shows me it's going to be so super easy and you're motivated from that way. Maybe logically you think about it. Okay, if I do a bit more exercise and I cut out a little bit more carbs, right? You're getting more logical about it. Then that's how you did it, depending who or what. It's either emotional or logical, or sometimes even both. The same process happens when you're working on your inner self. Let's say, for example, you read Brené Brown's book on vulnerability. That is the outside force, the outside stimulus. Using your cognitive functions, your thinking skills, you become more self-aware and notice how vulnerability does or doesn't show up in your life. Then either emotionally or logically, you get motivated to start making a change. If you want to make a change in your life, you've got to have an outside force. Something on the outside needs to trigger your thinking skills so that way you think about it and then you can actually go and make a change. This trigger, this outside force, this stimulus can be a person. It can be a book. It could be you're listening to a podcast. It could be anything on the outside that is getting your brain to think. Going back to our real life challenge, you're trying to improve your inner self. You want to know where to start. You want to begin improving on the inside. Yeah, you could go to the bookstore, Amazon, and just pick up any random book and hope it's a good one. You could go to Spotify and just pick out any podcast and then click on any podcast episode and hope that will give you a stimulus. But that's just being random. Yes, you can speak to your friends, to your partners, to your spouses and see if maybe they have some good ideas. That's also a stimulus. But sometimes we need something deeper. We need something a bit more personal. We need to go more on the inside because yes, you yourself can be an outside force for your brain. If you take the time to think, to journal, to ask yourself questions you don't usually ask yourself, you are creating a stimulus for yourself. Here are 10 questions to help you get started. I'm going to read them to you now, but you're going to be able to find a copy of all of them at lifepixuniversity.com/377. That's episode number 377. So lifepixuniversity.com/377 is going to have all these questions, but let's do them. Maybe you could start right now. Number 1, what do you fear most? Number 2, what problem do you wish you could solve? Number 3, when was the last time you felt on top of the world? Where were you? Who were you with? What were you doing? Number 4, where do you want your life to be in 5 years' time? Number 5, what does the future look like for you? Does it scare you? What parts of it do you love? What parts of it do you wish weren't there? Number 6, what's holding you back from being your true self with your spouse, partners, children, or friends? Number 7, who do I need to spend more time with? Who do I need to spend less time with? Number 8, what areas of your life are you struggling with most? Number 9, what excuses do you use most often? And number 10, what does inner peace feel like to you? All these questions are an outside force that will get your brain to trigger and start thinking using your cognitive functions, start seeing how it's related to you and develop that self-awareness so that way you can make the change. Once you have that awareness and you know you need to change, nothing is going to change without the motivation. Remember, it either has to be emotional or logical. So sometimes we could use cognitive functions to come up with a motivation that's very logical. And sometimes we need more of an emotional reason. In episode 375, we spoke about motivation for days when you just don't want to go out of bed. But in that episode, there was a great exercise to help you find motivation for anything you don't want to do. So if you're looking for motivation after you journal some, after you have an outside trigger helping you figure out what you need to do, go check out episode 375. To make an improvement in your life, you need 3 things. Number 1, an outside force, like a person, a book, a podcast, etc., or a journal question. Number 2, thinking skills to understand and process the outside force and see how it's related to you. That's self-awareness. And number 3, either emotional or logical motivation to make the change. And many times it's both. Remember, if you don't have an outside force, you don't have a stimulus, journal questions are great. If you know what you need to change, but you're not sure how to get yourself motivated to change, episode 375 has a great exercise. And to figure out if you're headed in the right direction, again, you'll need a stimulus. You'll want more journal questions, more something to trigger your brain to think about if you're headed in the right direction. Your challenge this week is to be aware of outside forces giving you cues for improvement. If you don't get any, or you want to be a bit more direct, answer journal questions. Remember, you can find all the ones I've shared in this episode at lifepixuniversity.com/377. Have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll see you next week.
That's all for this episode of the LifePix University podcast. If you enjoyed it, please share it with 2 of your family and friends so they too can gain from it, and you'll be helping us reach our goal of 1 million downloads by the end of 2025. Have an awesome rest of your day and grow those dendrites.